Anyway, like I say, we actually tried to make the Brileys really rich family too. Well, I gave them a whole bunch of, I gave the Brileys a whole bunch of property, thinking, or some factories and some stuff, thinking that that would mean that I would have lots of money because my last name was Briley, or at least someone made sure that the Brileys had money, fair amount of money anyway. Um, there's also the Robinsons, like basically, what's his name? Robin Williams. Of course, his first name. I guess maybe is that maybe if it's Robin Williams, but his real name is. I mean, if he's a Robinson, basically. I mean, the Robinsons were a rich family. Anyway, though, I'm not exactly sure about. I mean, they're English basically, and there's Robins basically, or I think that was it. Anyway, they were a rich family a long time ago, English or something like that. Well, they had an aircraft company basically, like the Robin or whatever, whatever. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, though, I mean, I had so many companies and whatever, and stuff like that. That I was like, well, whatever, because I had all these companies and they built perfectly good airplanes. And it's like, well, and the world's a big place, so I was like, yeah, whatever, because like I have, basically like the Boeing company. I mean, I'm basically a manufacturer of jet engines. Like I know how to build I knew how to build jet engines and aircraft engines. I invented the jet concept. It's basically a compressor, basically whatever. It's just a tube, and then a thing, and then you just gotta get it moving really fast, and then it's just like an engine. Only you're using the pressure of the air to actually create a combustion effect and then trying to funnel it. It's basically an open engine, pretty much, which is a really ridiculous concept. And like I invented that. I was like, well, why not? Why couldn't you do it if you have a big enough fan? Anyway, and a lot of people tried like the normal fan. It's like, no, 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 no. We're gonna have to really get this thing moving. Like I said, what they actually did to start the jet engine, what they did in the old days is they actually took an engine, a normal engine, and we put it to a drive shaft, and we put it right in the front, and then we used this fan, and they went, yeah, big huge gears, and this little shaft going as fast as it could, and then we had this fan basically, and the fan went in. And like I said, it's also my concept. I'm like, well, you're going to have to create a pressure barrier because if that's just blowing air, so you actually need to go in. And I was thinking like a rolled thing, so the air actually has to make a change or something. And I was actually thinking about two fans, like, or some way of stopping it or something like that. I had a couple ideas. I was like, well, that's just a fan. We're gonna have to do like this, and I was designing it myself. I mean, it's a crazy concept, like to actually get the jet engine going. Basically, I mean, you gotta. It took a couple years actually to actually get the jet engines to even work. I mean, because it's like fan blades going like this and fan blades going like that, and it's like you're trying to create like this pressure where like air will coalesce and then like combust, and then you're trying to use that to shove. I mean, it's like, how do you even come up with that concept? It's like, yeah, well, I had a lot of money, and I was like, well, I'm trying to create like a combustion chamber made out of air. Like that's what I'm going for, and I was like, well, this is what I'm going for. I'm trying to create a combustion chamber out of air, basically. And I was like, yeah. Anyway, though, I just pitched the idea to them, and I'm like, I think it'll work. Like theoretically, why wouldn't it work? It has to work. But the question is, how do we do this? And they asked me too. They're like, how do we do this? And I had to, and I spent like days on it. Actually, I spent like a week actually coming up designing a jet engine. I was like, and I worked it all out. Me, Lucifer, Star. I worked it all out. I was like, well, and it took a long time. It took me a week at least a week, maybe 2 weeks actually, to come up with a way where it might work. I was like, well, it might work like this. I mean, try designing a jet engine, man. Try being a 5-year-old kid or 8-year-old kid and designing a jet engine. It's not so easy. Like, how can you explain a jet engine, how it works? I mean, basically, once you're going at speed, then it's not so hard. Well, even at speed, it's hard. Anyway, though, but I invented it. So anyway, it took me weeks to invent the jet engine. I mean, maybe a good solid month of just thinking about it and just thinking about how this would work, how that would work. I figured it out all in my head. I was like, oh, okay, like this, okay. And then just like the jet engine. So anyway, I can't come up with it on the spot and tell you how I did it because it was like when I was 9 years old, I figured it out. And just like the wings, I figured them out too. I was like, okay, so the where, like this, okay, yeah, and then that'll lift. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, it was basically based on just a flat board going through the air, but with a bump. And I was like, well, that's not going to work, so we moved the pump forward. Anyway, we tried a lot of different tests, and we finally got one that really worked. So I was like, well, I think the bump forward. Of course, I'm like, yeah, but then you're going to be pulled, so yeah, it should work. So it's kind of like, yeah, I think. I was like, yeah, I think. Anyway, and all that created an aircraft company. Before that, no one knew how to fly. Everyone was like, it's impossible. I was like, no, it's not. We are going to fly. I was like, we are going to fly. It's just a matter of enough power and all that engines. So yeah. Anyway, and then I came up, and then we got the engine, and I thought about the engine design of how we could get engines. I was like, well, you just need fuel. And I came out, and I already come up with the steam engines and everything else like that. I was like, boil water, okay, it expands. Okay, water expands, turns into a gas. And no one ever, I don't know, people didn't know that water could turn into a gas or something like that. I was like, well, everything expands when you heat it up. So, you just, like, apparently, I guess I came up with all these concepts myself. People apparently didn't really realize or didn't think about the fact that if you boil water, it'll create pressure. At least they didn't take it seriously until I was like, yeah. I mean, anyway, we used to do clay steam vessels anyway, in the old days, but no one ever took them seriously. No one really cared about steam vessels, and I was like, yes, well, everyone was into sails. Sails were everything, and I owned a lot of textile plants back then, and I was building sails, but it's hard to build a sail. I was like, but there's got to be a better way. And everyone was like, you're never going to have enough fuel. I was like, well, it's all a matter of how much heat is expended. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, yes, Lucifer Star. That's how I was leading my people. Anyway, I was like, yes, this should work. This will work. Anyway, not many people put much stock in my crazy ideas, but. Anyway, yeah, it's funny. It's like back then they're like, no way, it's never going to work. It's like, just work on it, try it. And then later on, it works. It really works. I'm like, well, I told you it would. I am Lucifer Star. Anyway, yeah, so. Epic creator of 800 galaxies. I know a lot of the base stuff anyway. I do a lot of base work. Low tech, and then once they're going in a direction, it's like, okay, kick, go for it, whee, bye, and they run off. Anyway, yeah, I've done it in space too. Like I said, I led 400 planets individually, one by one. That's why people are like, cast out Lucifer. It's like, Lucifer, the creator? Lucifer Star, the creator? That's another thing. You should have said, I'm surprised you didn't say, cast out Lucifer Star. It's like, yeah. Lucifer and Star, I'm the creator. White star lines. Lucifer, white star lines. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's like that. Yeah, I'm Lucifer Star. The Lucifer Star, so. Steam. That's another thing. No one ever really cared. No one thought steam could actually become anything. Everyone was like, oh, what's steam? So what? Who cares? So I was like, yeah, steam. We're going to do it. So like I say, we were perfecting steam.